morning. Oh, morning, Vicky. You're bright and early. Very lovely to see you. How are you today? Morning, Nick. Nadine, good morning. Jasmine, Maggie. Oh, we got the A team in today. Oh, lovely to see you. Really nice to see you. How are you all doing? Are you all right? Thank you, Nadine. Morning, Sarah. Morning, Carrie. Oh, how are you doing? Hope you're all right. Hope your wrist is all right. It was your wrist, wasn't it? Morning, Claire. Oh yeah, Lynn is having a cup of tea with her friend this morning, so Lynn can't be here. But I think she deserves a day off, don't you? She's just such a hard worker. She's always here. Oh, Nadine, well, I'm sending big hugs to you and Charlie Bear. Big hugs to everyone. Morning, Emily. Nice to see you. Morning, Heather. Morning, everyone. Oh, Michelle, morning. Gosh, it's so lovely. Morning, Julie from California. I love it. Like, I come on here on a Friday morning and it's like actually having it, like I've got a cup of tea with me this morning and it's like having a cup of tea with my friends. It's so nice. All of the names that I recognise. Good morning, Caitlin. Morning, Megan. Thank you for following me. That's lovely. Yeah, Jasmine. Lynn is here all the time. Bless her heart. And then yesterday, because Lynn, if you don't know, Lynn is one of the moderators. So is Jasmine. So is Vicky. And I couldn't do it without them. You know, they're here and so kind and helpful. And Lynn was beside herself saying, "Oh, I can't do it tomorrow morning because I'm meeting my friend for a coffee." And I said, "Oh my goodness, please don't worry. It like every week, like twice a week sometimes, you will turn up and are so helpful." So, oh, your Jasmine's on the exercise bike. Excellent, well done you. Morning, Janie. Nice to see you. You're new here. Lovely to have you here. Welcome. Oh, okay. So Claire's saying, "I'm hoping someone has some tips for fear of vomiting. It's ruined my life." Oh, I'm sorry about that, Claire. That's a horrible thing, and I think people often ask about this on these lives. So, you know, if you look at my lives on YouTube, they're all, you know, there's lots of tips on there, but I will definitely talk about that again this morning. I've just made a note of it, Claire, so that I can answer some of your questions. Morning, Elizabeth. Lovely to see you. In Lady UK, you love my teeth. Gosh, thank you. Well, I've always looked after my teeth. I'm lucky. Oh, thank you. If you're following me, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Nice to see you. Nice. Let me introduce myself as everyone's joining us. I am. Oh, hang on. Mimi Begum. Oh gosh, I'm sorry that you're struggling today. So you're feeling tearful and scared. I'm really sorry to hear that. Hopefully, I'm really glad that you're here. Hopefully this little live and the community that's here will just calm you down a little bit, make you feel a bit better about things. So you're very welcome. And Jack's saying, "Is anxious breathing a thing?" Yeah, so let me talk about breath as well. For Jack. So, oh, Emily, you survived your flights. Well done. If you don't remember, Emily was saying that she's going on a flight and she's feeling really nervous about it. So there you go. That's evidence for your brain, Emily, that you can survive flights, and perhaps more than survive it, actually thrive and begin to love it. I used to be afraid of flying. I used to have to hold my husband's hand and he'd end up with nail marks in his hand because I was squeezing so tight. And I don't quite know what happened, but I think it was evidence over time. And I really like flying now. It's lovely. And Alice is saying waking up with bad anxiety. Anxiety and dread. Okay, so let me explain. So I'm, oh, bless you, Nadine, bless you. So I'm Sarah, and I'm a a QCH therapist, which stands for Quest Cognitive Hypnotherapy, and there's lots of information about that through my profile. And so if you go on my picture, and then in my profile there's a link tree, loads and loads of free resources through there, but also information. Oh, thank you for that, Rose. Very kind of you. Lots of free information, loads of resources, loads of information about the sorts of therapy that I do, and the place where we train therapists to do the sort of therapy that I do. So I try in every week to be here to do lives. Oh, where did my light go off? I'm not too sure about that. Oh, I know. Hang on a second. I'm going to turn my electricity on. I had it turned off. Right, so I'm back. What is going on? It's terrible because I'm turning everything off at night. I haven't turned my heating on, and I'm turning all my electric off at night, and then I forgot to turn it back on this morning. So so I was saying, so I'm the training manager at the Quest Institute. So we train one cohort of new therapists each year to be QCH therapists, and we work with people who have anxiety, depression, who have fears, who have limiting beliefs about their lives, who have perhaps behaviours that they're finding really difficult. Also, I don't personally work with this sort of thing, but there are colleagues of mine that work with various addictions. They're specialists in that. So it's worth looking at all that stuff. But anyway, I'm here today to talk about anything you fancy talking about, really. I've been away. I went away for the weekend, last weekend. It's our 30th wedding anniversary this year. And we went away to Venice. We got cheap flights, and we had a lovely weekend in Venice, which is like such a treat. I felt like a film star. So it was really nice. So that's why I didn't do my live last week, but here I am. So hope you're all right. I know things are really hard at the moment. It's really, really difficult for many people. So I can see lots of comments. So what I'm going to do, let's see. So lots and lots of comments come through, and it's quite difficult to keep up with them. But I do my best, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on with it. But I've written down 3 comments and 3 questions. I'll answer those, and then I'll get 3 more, and I keep going on like that. This is a really safe space. This is a place where we all know what kindness is, and it's a kind place. And I have Vicky and Jasmine are here this morning as moderators. So we have a sort of 0 tolerance policy. So if anyone is rude or offensive in any way, then they're just blocked straight away by Jasmine and Vicky. Hopefully the rest of us can just have a nice morning together. It's just for an hour, so till 11 o'clock. So let me start. So Claire, you were talking about emetophobia. So emetophobia is fear of being sick, fear of vomiting, whether that's you yourself or perhaps someone else in your environment that you think might be going to be sick. And generally it comes from as with most, if not all, fears and behaviours and anxieties, it comes from a significant emotional event that will have happened in your life at some point. And sometimes it can be something you remember, other times it can be something that has just been collected by your unconscious mind and is stored there as a moment of threat in your life. And what will have happened is that you've survived that moment, but it's got a big red flag next to it in your brain, so that when you either feel sick yourself, or you're thinking about perhaps you might be sick, or someone else doesn't look very well, then all the protective behaviours come flooding in, the fight or flight response. And that in turn can actually make you feel sick, because when we get anxious, our breathing changes, our heart rate changes, and our whole physiology changes. And so part of that can make us feel a little bit nauseous ourselves. And then that makes it feel even worse, doesn't it? So and that's awful. So what can we do about this? Well, there's lots of things that you can do by yourself to begin with. And so these are things that I share on my page. Everything that I have is free to look at. Also on my website, there's free downloads to help you to listen, to feel calmer. Oh, thank you, Isabella. That's very lovely of you, sending me roses. Thank you. So you can, I always say the first thing that we do is we create an environment of safety. So this is not a sort of laser focused, we're going to cure this thing and then that's it done. It's much more about a lifestyle thing, because it probably is affecting you in all sorts of ways. So it's about showing your nervous system in physical ways that you're safe. So we start by doing self-care, by beginning to introduce into our day things that we really love and that we look forward to doing, and that we can look back on and think, oh, I really enjoyed that, that was lovely. And in those moments, in that time during our day, we're creating an oasis where our body is experiencing the hormones which tell our nervous system that we're safe and all is well. And then, as well as doing that, there's lots of techniques you can use. So there's imagination, visualization techniques, which I share on my page, which are all in categories at the bottom of my profile. If you scroll along, you'll see that there's categories of techniques. So there's physical techniques, and there's also breath techniques which can help you, and there's also tapping, which is a really helpful thing. So all of those things are things you can do by yourself. Understanding what anxiety is really helpful, the emetophobia. So begin to ask yourself, where did this come from? When did I start to feel like this? And probably you'll know when it started. Sometimes people say, oh, I've always felt like this, and that's okay as well, because maybe it just started at a time where you were too young really to consciously remember. And I think another thing that can be helpful also is to go and speak to someone, because emetophobia, fear of vomiting, is one of the most prevalent fears that people have. So you're not alone. Often it can be about things like, thank you, Niles, it can be about feeling out of control as well. And often that I find that people I work with who are suffering from emetophobia, quite often they've either never been sick or they haven't been sick for a long time, and there's that fear of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? So by talking about it and working it through with a therapist, that can be really helpful. So maybe start off by going to your doctor, and then I think it's important to find a therapist. In my profile, there is a link to the QCHPA Therapist Finder. You can also look at the counselling directory. If hypnotherapy is not your cup of tea, there's lots of other people that would work with this as well. So do have a look. But it's definitely something that can be helped. So I hope that helps a little bit, Claire. So Jack, you were asking about breath and anxious breathing, and this is absolutely a thing, because what happens is that our brain is constantly scanning our environment, looking for threat. Oh, thank you so much. It's so lovely when you send me the roses and the gifts. It means so much. It's so kind of you. But I also, please don't feel that you have to do that. It's absolutely fine. But it's lovely of you. So thank you. So anxious breathing. So our brain is constantly. Oh, Nadine and Niles, bless your hearts. It's constantly scanning our environment, looking for potential threat. And that threat can be real, or it can be just perceived as a threat. Our brain doesn't care, because it would rather take action and keep us safe from a threat that turns out not to be real, than to be thinking, oh, is it real, is it not real? And before we know it, we've been eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. So it's really, that's the thing that's happening. And it's not a conscious thing. So a lot of the things that we feel anxious about, consciously, rationally, we know that we shouldn't be afraid of these things, that there's no need for us to be anxious, that we've got a good life and that all is well. But again, it's not our rational mind that's in charge of this. Our rational mind, our conscious mind, is in control for about 10% of our day, and 90% of the day our unconscious mind is in control. So if you think of it like that, then excuse me, you can see, can't you, that if you've got this big unconscious that's doing its best to protect you all the time, and what happens is that the minute there's threat, it dashes into action, changes the way our heart beats, so our heart starts to beat more quickly, and our breath definitely changes. So our breath becomes quite shallow, quite up here. We might hold our breath. We might take a preparatory breath, so we're ready to go away, but we're holding our breath. And what we can do to help ourselves with our breath is to use some of the techniques that I share on my page, such as triangle breathing, resetting our breathing, doing a double breath, doing a phone breath, because what we want to show our nervous system that we are safe, and we do this by having a longer out breath than in breath. So a really simple technique, if you have your phone with you, you could do this with me now, is that if you run this is obviously, it's not my phone because I've only got one phone and I'm looking at it to do the live. So if you run your finger along your phone, along the edges like this, all the way around, and if you start to sync your breathing with that, so you breathe in along the short edge and then maybe pause, and then a long slow out breath along the long edge, maybe pause again, and again, it's in. Oh, it's hard here. So out, in, out, out, in, out, out, in, out, out, in, and so on. So straight away, your out breaths are twice as long as your in breaths. So that starts to help you with the anxious breathing. So it's being aware of breathing, but not letting it take over your life, if that makes sense. So I hope that helps a little bit. So take care, Jack. I hope you're all right. Do have a look at some of my longer videos about breath work, because anxious breathing is definitely a thing. And if we can help our breath change, then it can start to help us feel less anxious. So Alice asked about waking up in the morning feeling really anxious and full of dread. So I'm sorry you feel like that, Alice. It's horrible, isn't it? You wake up and before you know it, you're in that closed loop again of thinking, I'm feeling physically terrible and having that sense of dread going round and round in your mind. What happens in the mornings is that we do tend to get a little burst of cortisol through our system in the mornings, first thing, and it's part of our waking up process. And as cortisol is one of the stress hormones, one of the hormones that gets released during fight or flight, then if you've already got a raised level of adrenaline and cortisol in your system, then it may be, and I'm not saying this is the absolute truth because it is only a tiny little bit of cortisol, but it may be that is enough to trigger again that sort of feeling of, I'm in a terrible place here. So, because if you think about it, if you think that if you're constantly being triggered into fight or flight or anxiety, and your levels of stress hormones are quite raised like this, then you get a little burst of adrenaline and cortisol in the morning, and you're feeling terrible again. So I think it's, like I was saying a bit earlier on, it's a really good idea to work on generally lowering your levels of stress, doing lots of self-care, doing breath work, physical work, so that life is as comfortable as you can make it. And then your levels of hormones are down in here, the stress hormones. So even if you do get a little burst, you're like, ooh, like this, rather than up here and it's all into overwhelm. So I hope that helps a little bit, Alice. I'm really aware that there's like masses and masses of comments coming through. So let me have a little scroll through. So Leah, thinking about having panic attacks and intrusive thoughts. Thank you so much for all your comments. I'm so sorry that I don't get through them more quickly. Let's see. Oh, Anna Maria, it's nice to see you here. I'm just scrolling through. Okay, so I can't dance. Depersonalization. Let's see. I'll do that in just a second. It's Paulina Irina. Birth. So I'm a slow writer, so I'm just having a look at these. Let's have a look. Thank you for all of your comments. I mean, for those of you who are joining me, thank you very much for joining. I'm Sarah, and I'm a QCH therapist, and it's I'm just trying to answer as many questions as I can about what's going on for you in your lives. Yeah, so Fraser Walker says breathwork works best once you've flushed the stress hormones out, though. Use the energy first. So, yeah, so it's a combined approach, isn't it? It's not one thing that works. It's a holistic approach in our lives so that our nervous systems begin to understand that we're safe. So the breathwork is combined with all the other stuff, if that makes sense. Let's have a look. Gosh, so many questions, so many comments, and I haven't. Let's see. Okay, let me just answer some questions. I'm. Yeah. Okay. Julesy, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Okay, let me just answer some of these questions. So Leah was asking about panic attacks. Having panic attacks. Now, panic attacks are really unpleasant, really not nice to be experiencing at all. So I feel for you. Panic attacks are different for everybody. You know, for some people they can be quite quiet and internal, and perhaps people don't even realise that you're having a panic attack. For other people, they can be very visible, and how you might imagine someone who's panicking looking. So again, and I know that this sounds, it sounds like for me, I listen to myself and I think to myself, well, I've got this very similar answer for everything, but actually all of these things are so based on trauma in our lives. Trauma has happened. Our nervous system is doing its best to cope, but it doesn't realise that the trauma is no longer present, or it perhaps had misunderstood what was going on for certain things, because perhaps you were a child, and if it's trauma of being told off by someone and you thought it was all about you, and actually it wasn't about you, it was about that teacher or that person as a grown-up was just not very good at their job or something, so it is really important to understand that creating this environment of safety really, really makes a difference. The small, simple things of self-care, it's as though we're living in the dark, and by starting to do things each day that give us a release of the hormones that make our nervous system feel safe and well, by doing that, those pinpoints, they become pinpoints of light, and the more we do that, the light grows and grows and grows until we're living in the light again. So I hope that makes sense. So Leah, with panic attacks, again, I've done specific stuff on panic attacks in the past, so do go and have a look at those. But it's also creating an environment of safety. And if you're having a panic attack, to let me think. I'm just thinking, if you know that you're going to have panic attacks in certain places, and you perhaps have the similar people around you when those are going to take place, then for you to let them know what you need in that moment can be really helpful. So even if you have a piece of paper written down and you want to have that so that if someone is there, you don't have to talk, you can just give them the paper saying, I'm having a panic attack, please stay calm and breathe with me, or something like that. So it's whatever you need as a person. That reassurance can be really, really helpful. If you're trying to help someone with a panic attack, to just be reassuring and to breathe slow and steady, because what will happen is that person's breath will start to become slow and steady, and then the panic attack will begin to go. So I hope that helps a little bit, Leah. I think I've spoken better about this than other times. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I think my brain is a bit doolally this morning. I'm not too sure why. Paulina Irina, you asked your question about giving birth and that you're really frightened of giving birth. So George, my son George Eris, is joining me from Australia. It's so lovely to see you, Georgie. Oh gosh. So Paulina Irina, it's your second baby. So I wonder if you've spoken to anyone about this, because I have a friend and a colleague called Claire Burgess, and she specialises in working with people who are going through pregnancies, or about to go through or going through pregnancies. She's a fully qualified therapist, and she works with people who've had traumatic births. And so that she can help you. So I think it would be really, really well worth getting in touch with her. So her name again is Claire, and that's Clare, Claire Burgess, Burgess. And I wonder if maybe Vicky or Jasmine, you could write that down, and just so that Paulina Irina could see that, because Claire is just one of the loveliest people. If I was going to go for therapy, I would go to Claire. She's just absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, so you can see there. And if you just Google Claire Burgess therapy or confident childbirth, then she is amazing. So I absolutely recommend her. So I would go and have a chat with her. I know she'll have a chat with you with no charge, and you can see if you think she's the right person for you. Okay, thank you for asking the question. So I can't dance. You were asking about depersonalisation and derealisation, especially when you're out and about in the shops. I feel for you, because for those of you who don't know what depersonalisation is or derealisation, it is a symptom of anxiety, and it's where you feel that you're removed from the world. I've personally never experienced it, but I know from clients that I've worked with, it can be quite scary. So you can at times look at yourself in the mirror and not recognise yourself in the mirror, not see that that's you in the mirror. And you can be in the shops or somewhere, and it's like all of a sudden everything is very distant from you. I'm hoping that that's a correct description of perhaps of a little bit of how it feels for you, Paula Irina. because it's really not nice at all. One of the things that you can do, along with all the other things that I've talked about, that whole holistic approach of creating an environment of safety, is having structure in your life, having routine, so that you know what you're doing, where you're going, so that your day is kind of chunked down. It's one of those things that it can take a little while to get sorted out, and it is well worth going to see someone to perhaps see, Laura Skelton, I had this when I had a panic attack and I felt like I couldn't move and I wasn't in my body. Very weird. So I'm sorry that you had that, Laura. That's it though, isn't it? And it can be really scary in the moment, and if that's one of the things that you're experiencing with the anxiety, so Echo, I don't know how to say your name, Saoirse, I just faint and I'm unable to move, like paralysis. Yeah. So I'm sorry about that. That's not pleasant either, is it? Anxiety is a bugger, isn't it? It's not nice. It's so awful, because it's such a natural thing and it can save our lives. It can be so brilliant, so helpful for us, and yet at the same time so absolutely debilitating. So so with as I was saying, with the depersonalisation and derealisation, structure can really help. So I would say go and see your doctor, go and talk to your therapist, if you haven't done so already. And there's actually really helpful videos on YouTube about depersonalisation, derealisation. There are people who specialise in what to do about it. I think the important thing to remember with all of these things is it's not about going down a rabbit hole of how awful it all is, but look at it and think, okay, I have this going on in my life, what can I do about it? Because taking action starts to give you back control. And if taking action means self-care, creating an environment of safety, learning visualization and imaginary techniques, physical techniques, breath techniques, then that's all free. That's all stuff that you can do for yourself. And then going to see your doctor, going to find a therapist, they're all things that can make a really big difference. But as I say, structure can be really, really helpful. So I do hope that helps a little bit. And thank you for asking the question. You can come through this. It doesn't have to be with you forever. So please, keep going. Let's have a look. Let's see. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's Sarah. I'm a QCH therapist, which stands for Quest Cognitive Hypnotherapy. And we're a small group of therapists, but there are hundreds of us. We're based all over the world and we work all over the world with people. I have clients I work with from Australia, from New Zealand, from Canada and America, from Europe, from all over the place, really. It's, if you want to know more, then there's more information on my profile. There's a link to go through to the Quest Institute, my Quest Hub. There's all sorts of free resources in there. So and there's more on my website as well, and they're all through that link. So go and have a little look if you're interested. Let's have a look at some of these. You're from okay. So Demelza, I've had panic attacks since heart failure in July. Oh gosh, so you've been through a lot, haven't you? So, and when you think about it, Demelza, when you've been through a traumatic event, that is the nervous system wants us to survive. We as human beings, our job on this earth is to survive, if we're being really basic here, but it's to survive and to make sure that there are more human beings in the world. So it's really important that we can be aware of danger. And when we've been through a traumatic event, like heart failure, which you can't get a great deal more traumatic than that, can you? Then your nervous system is going to be really, really hypervigilant, looking out for stuff that is potentially dangerous. And then the minute it senses something that might be of danger to you, it throws you into fight or flight, which is the sensation of having a panic attack. So, as I was saying earlier, if you can sort of reduce your levels every day of the sense of danger, and I think probably, I don't know if they've offered this to you, but working with a therapist can really help you with that, whether that's a counsellor, a hypnotherapist, or any type of talking therapy can really help, just to begin to reframe what happened. Because when we go through trauma can be anything that means that we've lost our sense of trust, really. So we're going on along in our lives, and something happens, and we realise that, either I'm not the person I thought I was, or the people around me are not the people I thought they were, or the world is not the way I thought it was going to be, or my life is not the way I thought it was always going to be. All of a sudden it's like the rug is pulled out from underneath us, and everything becomes uncertain, and everything becomes very, our foundations are very wobbly, and what we need is to begin to reconcile that trauma, to help us understand that was then, this is now, and okay, I'm going to collect evidence that all is well now. So it's really hard, and I do feel for you, but we can definitely do something about it. So let's have a look some more. Oh gosh. Oh, you've not been offered therapy, Demelza. Oh gosh. So if you were interested in therapy, there's lots of ways. If you go and ask, sometimes I think the NHS perhaps don't offer stuff because they're just trying to save money. Whereas if you go in and insist and say, I need help because I'm having panic attacks and I want to be able to talk my way through this, then hopefully the NHS will, you might have to wait. I would imagine you will have to wait. But there's also, you can look at charities, perhaps. I'm trying to think of a charity to do with the heart, but quite often charities have sections of their charity where they will make therapy available either for free or at a reduced cost. And the therapist that they'll have, whatever is the thing that's going on for you, if you go to the charity connected with it and talk to them, they will generally have a helpline, or at least an email where you can email them and say, look, I'm really struggling with this, can you suggest help? Then they'll have a list of people who will really know what they're talking about when it comes to your thing that's going on for you. So it's definitely, whatever's going on for you, do have a look at the charities that might be connected to it. Gosh, so I'm just looking here. So Steph, you're saying, in 12 months I've been diagnosed with chronic illness, split up with my partner and been evicted. Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's, and plus before that there was COVID, so you've had a whole long list of things. And I think for all of us, if we all look at our lives and we look at what's been happening in the last 2 or 3 years, never mind all the stuff that's happened 5-10 years ago, 20-30 years ago, all of that stays in our brains, and it all affects how we live our everyday lives, So if you think about that, we've all been through very traumatic times recently. So it's really, really important to care for ourselves, with self-care, self-management, self-compassion. Let's see. Oh gosh, nostalgic girl. I've been spiralling even on meds for anxiety and depression. I don't know what to do. I wonder if you've had any talking therapy, because I think that I'm not a doctor, so I'm not qualified to talk in detail or at all about medication. And I don't know what meds you're on, and even if I did know the names, I wouldn't be able to say anything. But I think that it's really important, if you're having any issues, any difficulties, to go back to your doctor and say, listen, this is not enough, I'm spiralling, I need to talk to someone. So I think that that's a really good thing to do. Always go back and insist. And I know it's hard, and I know sometimes you just feel exhausted and you feel you don't want to do that, but it's really, really important that you go back and insist. So let's have a look here. So Babby said that you're using EMDR. So EMDR is a fantastic therapy. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and it is a therapy that works on trauma, and it is absolutely amazing. I use AMDR, which is applied eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it was taught to me by a couple of people, Jill Wood and Joshua Isaac Smith, who are both EMDR specialists, and they've developed AMDR for therapists like me, who are Quest cognitive hypnotherapists. So it is the same thing really, but it's just it brings in the techniques that we use as well. So, but yeah, definitely EMDR is a great technique. Let's have a look. So social anxiety, Christina, let's have a look. So Christina, I literally can't talk to people, I don't know what to do. Okay, well, I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm really glad that you've had the courage to write your question and to ask your question, because I think you're not alone in that. Let's have a look. That's all right, Christina. So I've made a note of it. I'm gonna answer your question. I'm just looking to see if there's anyone else that I can. Perry's the best. I have anxiety and afraid that I will faint. What should I do? Okay. So fear of fainting. Perry's the best. Is that Perry from Little Mix that you're talking about, or is that you? Okay. So I'll answer that in a second. Oh, thank you, Hamish. That's really kind of you to say. I do hope that I help people on these lives. I worry that I'm saying the same thing again and again, but you know, it is, when it comes down to it, I've kind of realised over the years that it's actually quite simple. You know, it's simple in lots of ways, and a lot of the time people are made to think that when you're suffering from anxiety or depression that you're broken, that there's something really wrong with you, and that there's a chemical imbalance in your brain, and that's just not true. The new research is that people who are suffering from anxiety, from depression, from all the fears and things that people have, it's because of your nervous system doing its absolute damnedest to help you, because it believes deep down that you're in danger because of a traumatic event that's happened to you in the past. And trauma can be big T trauma, it can be small T trauma. It's a totally individual thing. So I think that, yeah, for me, the work that I do, I can see in my clients. I know it doesn't work for everyone that I see. Perhaps I'm just a stepping stone, and then they go on to something else, and it's a journey that we all make. But the vast majority of people seem to really find this stuff works for them, and the lovely thing is that it is kind and gentle and simple. So yeah, Chels says, how do you feel about hypnotherapy for anxiety and negative thought patterns? Yeah, I mean, I'm a cognitive hypnotherapist, so I'm not a traditional hypnotherapist at all, but yeah, we work on that all the time, looking at patterns of thoughts, and beginning to change those, beginning to change mindset is a really important thing. Oh my goodness. So I've been dealing with traumatic things for 3 years now, and I'm at the end. It's too much. Gosh, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That's really hard, really hard. I would say, if you've not gone to see someone yet, please go and see somebody about that. Go and see your doctor, go and see a therapist, because it will make a difference. Okay, let me answer these questions now. So, Christina, social anxiety and feeling that you just can't talk to people. So, and I can see Echo, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but Echo Sersha, when you have autism and severe anxiety, how can we move on from severe traumas and such? Okay, how can move on? Okay, so I'm going to go back to Christina. So Christina's social anxiety. So social anxiety, again, is something that it can be connected to all sorts of things. So it can be about the sort of type of person that you are. So if you're an introvert, for example, then we get I'm an introvert, and I get my energy from time spent by myself, time that's quiet time. If you're an extrovert, you can get your energy from time spent with people. You need to have that social connection. We all need social connection in some way or other, but perhaps, for some of us, like for me, a party is my worst nightmare, with loads of people and loud music. But I love being like around a table talking with people. I don't mind that, and so we're all different, and there's that, plus there's the whole thing about trauma. So oh, good, I'm so glad. Thank you, I got the correct pronunciation for your name, Ekasosha. So, so what can have happened is perhaps when you were a child, so, if you were an introvert and your parents were like, if your parents were extroverts and they were like, come on, come and talk, you got to talk, come and be part of this big occasion, and you're just, you go into protection and feel absolutely terrible. Or perhaps you have a sense of esteem that is not as high, a self-esteem that is not as high as it could be. And so it's about working on you and your confidence and the way that you feel about yourself and your set of beliefs about yourself. So I think the thing is small steps, and to begin to look at patterns. When do you feel comfortable? Is it do you have particular people that you can talk to, whether that's friends and family, or is it really absolutely no one, you don't feel comfortable with anybody? So have a look at that, look for the patterns, and also I think to start taking small steps to realise that you don't have to be a big talker. Actually, people really like listeners, and it's amazing how listening is something that people have sort of forgotten how to do a lot of the time. People listen to reply. They're so busy to go, oh yeah, that happened to me too. And actually that's not so helpful for people, is it? So if you're a listener, you will give so much value to people. So that's something to think about. Asking people about themselves. So I can see you say now, I just want to have friends. Yeah, so I wonder how old are you, Christina, if you don't mind me asking? But no one wants to be around me because I say nothing. Okay, so I think that's probably... we make assumptions, don't we? We make assumptions. So you're 16, Christina. So I can remember when I was 16, when I was 18, I was just so shy and I couldn't talk to anyone at all. So I think the thing to remember is that you're not yet who you're going to be. And all of our lives are a journey, really, which sounds a bit sort of twee, but it's true, because we're just working our way through life and we're growing and we're learning. And so although it might feel really difficult at the moment, it will get easier as time goes on. So I would say that we tend to do a lot of mind reading. We look at people and we think, you say it's been getting worse, so I don't think it will get better, but you don't know that. And I would say I would say, as a therapist, Christina, that it will get better. And I'm going to tell you how. So the way it's going to get better is that you're going to start being kind to yourself. And you're going to begin to realise that the people around you, you don't know what they're thinking. And if you can begin to be interested in them, to smile, to nod, to smile when they say something funny, to begin to be kind to yourself, and maybe... So, Christina, you are way in the future. You're 16 and you're saying, I don't know how I'll be able to get a job or buy a house because you can't do anything that involves people. Okay, well, I would put the word yet on the end of that, okay? Because you don't need to do any of those things right now, okay? You don't need to buy a house. You don't need to get a job yet. You just need to work on you and begin to do the things that you really like doing. And I'm wondering if there's anyone close to you, around you, that you can talk to that can begin to help you. There's something that you can do which can be really helpful called mirroring and matching. So if you look at people, when people are talking together, if they're getting on really well, they'll be using a similar sort of body language, and you probably find yourself doing this naturally. So you'll be talking to someone and they'll go like that, and you'll find that you really are drawn to going like that as well. Or if someone you're talking to has got their legs crossed, then you'll probably find yourself crossing your legs too at some point. And so it's that that sense of just connecting with other people. You don't need to be saying stuff to be appreciated as a friend. And I think that it's definitely worth talking to someone about. And I'm not saying a therapist, because I don't think that there's anything wrong with you, Christina. I think that you're 16 and perhaps you're shy and perhaps you find social occasions really, really difficult. And that will begin to change. And it takes those small things, those small steps to begin to do stuff for you each day, so that you've got things to look forward to. Also to perhaps to begin to be of service to people. So if you have family, if you're in your household, there's things that you can do for people. And also to practice having conversations. So to do kind of conversations with, I don't know if you've got a mum or a dad or siblings that you could chat to, and just talk about stuff, talk about what's going on in the news, and think about, well, what do I think about this? Because that is okay to practice. So I hope that helps a little bit. But please don't despair, don't despair, don't give up, because it will change, I promise you. If you'd have said to me, 40 years ago that I'd be doing a live and talking like this for an hour, I just would have thought that it was an impossibility, because I just couldn't look at anyone in the eye, never mind talk to them. So things will change. And it's, so keep going, because I'm really pleased that you're trying to do that. And there's nothing wrong with being quiet, there really isn't. I'm not sure if I've helped you massively, but just maybe begin to think about this, that you can do this, and it's about working out how can you begin to practice a little bit more and begin to feel a bit better about yourself. So thank you for asking your question. I'm going to quickly move on because we've only got sort of 6 minutes left now. So Perry's the Best was asking about fear of fainting going out. So I'm just going to quickly answer that. So I think I suppose there's two things. So either do you faint, that's my pleasure, Christina, you take care of yourself. If you do faint, and you have fainted in the past, then the first thing to do is to go and see your doctor and just double check physically that all is well and that you're okay. All right. So that's the first thing to do. With any physical symptoms, it's always really important. I'm sorry, I've just seen a comment there from Brie. I'm sorry. It's always important to get physical stuff checked out by your doctor. If physically you're fine, then, and if it is just a fear that you're going to faint, then it's important perhaps to look back and think, okay, where has this come from? And if you have a fear of something, then it is really important to talk to somebody, I think perhaps to talk to a therapist, because by talking to a therapist you can get to the bottom of where it's come from, what it's about, and you can begin to reframe it and change that fear. It doesn't have to take very long at all. If you were to go and see a cognitive hypnotherapist, then it can be quite a brief therapy. If you actually have fainted in the past and do faint, then I think it's important to be prepared. And if you feel the signs and you just think, right, okay, I'm going to be safe, I'm going to sit down, and then it will pass, then that's important too. But I'm getting from what you said that it's probably a fear of it. And with any fear, a fear has come from... So, Perry, you said you don't faint. Okay, so that's a good thing. So when we're anxious about something, we get the physical symptoms. So we can feel a bit lightheaded, we can feel our heart beating faster, and our breath changes. So we can feel a bit nauseous and feel a bit... we can feel afraid that maybe we're going to faint. So it's about looking at where the fear has come from. And to do that, really, it's helpful to go and work with a therapist, because they have ways that can sort of maybe do regression or something, take you back to the first time that you felt that way and work out, okay, what was that about? What did that mean? And so on. So I think reducing your anxiety by doing the things that I was talking about earlier, the environment of safety, self-care, all of the techniques that I share, those can all be really helpful. But if you've got a fear will have been triggered by a traumatic event, and so it's well worth going and getting that checked out, working through with a therapist. Whether that's a counsellor, whether that's a hypnotherapist, a cognitive hypnotherapist, then it's finding the right person for you, really. So I hope that helps a little bit. Maddie, it's so lovely to see you, and you've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh my goodness. Well, Maddie, it will be on my YouTube. So if anyone's just joining this live, if Maddie, you're so wonderful. You and Julie and P-Bird Girl, you all join me from America and from Canada, and you're up really early in the morning. But if you have missed this live and it interests you and you think that you'd like to see more of it, then I will upload it to my YouTube channel, and you can get to that. Oh, bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you, Maddie. You can watch it via... it's on my link tree. But if you Google Sarah Ayres Therapy on YouTube, then it will be there as well. So, but it's all through my profile. There's links. So, but thank you for joining me, Maddie. It's lovely to see you. Right, let me see. So I've got... Echo Sersha, you asked, how can I move on from trauma? So it's such a good question, because for those of you who've been through trauma, it can fill your world. Gracie, I can see you asking this question. Please, can I talk about complex PTSD? What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a note of that, and it's not something that I work with, but I will talk about it next time. So my next live is going to be next Friday. I'm having to drive to Wales and back next Monday, so I just can't do a live next Monday, but I will do one next Friday. I promise you, Gracie, I will talk about complex PTSD next Friday. So talking about moving on from trauma, and it's something that you definitely can do. When we go through trauma, there's something that, you know, people can suffer from PTSD, from CPTSD. There is also something called post-traumatic growth, and I think because we're all individuals, it really depends on us and the nature of the trauma that we went through, and the support that we've had following trauma that can help us to move on from it. To I sort of trying to choose my words carefully here, because it's so different for every single person, and I think what hopefully we want to get to a place where we know that the trauma happened, but it doesn't overwhelm our current day. Does that make sense? And I think that the way that we can do that is sometimes. So I remember when I was doing my EMDR training, the trainer was telling me a story of a couple that they'd worked with, and the couple had both been in a car crash, and they both had totally different reactions to it. So one of them was absolutely fine and walked away from the crash and was okay, and mentally was okay about everything. The other partner walked away from the crash and was absolutely paralysed by PTSD following it. And so you can have two people have gone through the same thing and have totally different takes on it, and it's not a conscious thing that we choose to have this take on it or that take on it. It is just about what happens to us in our own heads because of our life journey, our experience, and so on. So but you definitely can do work with it. So EMDR is fantastic for trauma. I use AMDR. I think that it is well worth working with a therapist. I think that this is something that when you've been through traumatic events and they're affecting you in your life, then I think it's about taking your time working with sorry, I just caught another comment there that made me stop. It is about taking your time, working with someone that you really click with and that is kind and really knows what they're doing, really knows what they're talking about as far as trauma is concerned, and being kind to yourself, taking time to get through it. But you absolutely can get through what you've experienced, come out the other side, and be able to live a good life. And I think the comment that I just saw there that was talking to Perry's the Best, the thing about working through all these difficult things that we're experiencing is that it's not linear. it's not sort of I'm here and then I end up here and it's a straight line. It's very much about you can take 2 steps forward and you take a step back. Take 2 steps forward, take 2 steps back, take 2 steps forward, take a step back. As long as your trajectory is you're gradually making progress, that you're gradually creating change, then that's what we're looking for. And it's so important that you're kind to yourself. Honestly, you will get there, but none of us are perfect. None of us have perfect lives. None of us go through life feeling happy all the time and brilliant all the time. And when you've been through trauma, then that's really hard. And I think we quite often we sort of try and hide that away from people and say, oh yeah, I'm fine. And actually you're not fine. You feel absolutely awful. So reaching out, even if you've been through therapy and you've had help and they've said, right, that's it, you've had your sessions, off you go. If you don't feel right still, then go back and say, I need more, I need more time, because that's all it is time, and finding the right therapy. I have lots of people that come to me and say, oh, I've done this and I've done that and it's not worked, and I don't think, I don't believe that any therapy works for me. And I always say, you just haven't found the right therapy yet. And I'm not saying that my therapy is the right therapy, because it's not for everybody. Sometimes someone needs something completely different to what I offer, but it's about finding what's right for you. So I hope that helps a little bit. So it is 11:05, and I've come to the end, so I'm going to sort of draw things to a close. So Jasmine's saying, took 4 therapists before you found the right one. So well done you for keeping going, Jasmine, because that's amazing. I'm so glad that you kept going, because if you'd given up after the first one and thought, oh, that's it, all therapists are rubbish, then you wouldn't be in the place that you're in now. So that's brilliant. Echo Saoirse, I'm pleased if I've helped you a little bit. So thank you for that. So it's so lovely to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to draw things to a close. I'd like to thank Vicky and Jasmine, Vicky Hodson and Jasmine, who've been here as my moderators today, keeping everything safe and answering lots of questions that I don't see, or I don't. I just sort of, I'm talking through answers to stuff, and I that's one of the reasons that I stop sometimes, because I'll see a comment and I'll think, I need to answer, and then I don't, and anyway. So thank you to Vicky and Jasmine so much for being so lovely. I hope that you all have a lovely weekend. If you've missed any of this and you think, I'd like to see the whole thing, or if you've got something that I've not answered your question about it, do have a look at my YouTube channel, which you can reach through my profile. There's a link, and the top link in the Linktree link is my YouTube, because all of the lives that I've done are on there, and I've started sort of putting in the description all the stuff that I cover during the live, so that you can see if your thing is on there, then it's worth watching that live. So I have covered things in those lives that I haven't covered today. So do go along. If you'd like to subscribe, if you'd like to follow, then that's the YouTube. Don't subscribe to me on TikTok. Please do not subscribe on TikTok, because you have to pay for that, and I don't want anyone paying anything. Okay, so yes, but YouTube is free. So if you want to subscribe on YouTube, then that's lovely. So, gosh, anyway, listen, I hope you have a lovely weekend. I'm going to be here. Thank you. Live, laugh. I live, laugh, love. What a beautiful name. And thank you so much for sending me the rose. That's lovely of you. So I'm going to say cheerio. I will be here next Friday. I'm thinking of doing it. I've got a meeting next Friday morning, so I'm going to do it in the evening. Next Friday, probably about 6 o'clock. If you can make next Friday at 6 o'clock, then please join me. I will look forward to seeing you. And thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you, William Stewart. It's lovely to see you. You take care. Thank you. Thank you, Els. Thank you, Eka Saoirse. Oh, you've got purple hair. Oh my goodness, I would love to go purple or pink. I did actually buy some pink colour dye, a hair dye for my hair, and I'd never quite had the courage to use it. That was in lockdown. So good on you that you've got purple hair. I love it. Oh, Fat, thank you so much for being here, and I'm glad that you found it a safe space. That's all down to my moderators We're a lovely team. I have to say I'm very lucky. I have Lynn and Jasmine and Vicky. I have Zanshin and Vicky Handlebars as well. And together I think we work well, hopefully to make it a nice safe space. So thank you for being here. Kezia, thank you for being here. And Carrie, thank you. Thank you, Genowat. Oh, Nadine, it's been so lovely to see you. You take care of yourself, because it's so lovely to have you as part of our community. I know we all look forward to seeing you. So take care. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Julie B. Stever, thank you for being here all the way from California. I hope you have a lovely day when your day actually dawns, because it must be, what, like 3 o'clock in the morning with you, I imagine. But thank you for being here. Oh, Fat, you're quite right. For all the people here, I know you're here for good reasons. You want help and you'll all be okay. Do you know, it's so true. It's just a case of just keep going, everyone. Keep going. Jasmine's done 20k on the bike throughout this. I tell you what, I'm impressed. Oh, Vicky, that is such a lovely thing for you to say. Thank you so much. I love that. You know, it makes me feel very, very happy to be here. I'm very lucky that this community is here, and I'm so fortunate that you come along. Let's see. Oh, Rachel, thank you for being here. Right, well, I must go, but thank you ever so much for being here, everyone. It's just been lovely seeing you all, and thank you for your shares, thank you for your follows, thank you for your kindness, and I will see you next Friday. Keep an eye out on my profile. I'll make a note of when it is, and I'll do a little post so you can set a reminder if you fancy. But yeah, you take care. Cheerio.